Hi, I'm Barb Stone, and I am a leadership development coach, speaker trainer, TEDx speaker, and now author of So Much to Drool About. And I am so glad to be on this podcast. Please stay tuned, listen to it with Kim Sorrelle and also Brave TV. Please check this out, and here's the link, and we'll see you soon.
Welcome to the show. I'm so happy that you're here, and you are going to be so happy that you're here. I'm Kim Sorrelle. I'm a speaker. I'm an author. I get to do a lot of great things in life. The best part about life, though, the best thing, the most exciting thing I get to do is meet incredible people. And today I have this incredible woman who says that looking good and doing it right is killing us. Isn't that interesting? So we're going to get more into that. She's a TED speaker. She's a speaker. She's done lots of stuff, author, incredible. She loves Great Danes. I grew up with Great Danes. It's all good. So anyway, Barb, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kim. Excited about doing this and having a great conversation with you.
Yeah, I've been so excited. So looking forward to this. I don't meet very many Great Dane people.
Okay.
But I love a Great Dane. I grew up
Yeah.
with Great Danes, and they're just such a great pet. They're
Yes.
loyal, but they're also kind. Like, I don't know, like our first Great Dane wouldn't let anybody in the house when my dad was gone, but otherwise was friendly to everybody. And so, they're a big baby sometimes, I think, Great Danes.
They
But
are. They
yeah,
are.
right. Yeah. So anyway, to start us off, Barb, I want to hear about 8-year-old Barb.
8-year-old Barb. 8-year-old Barb. Oh boy. 8-year-old Barb was a very shy, believe it or not, shy little girl. She was first full generation American. My parents were of Polish descent. My father was actually from Poland. My mother was born here, and but I kind of grew up in that Polish household with Polish culture, and it was a little bit different than everybody else. So I was this shy 8-year-old little girl. And I remember my mother always going to school and saying she's smart, she's brilliant, but she doesn't want to speak up. And they'd come home and say, what's wrong? And I was shy at the time. That little girl has changed so much. But it's just because of the journey that I've been on that I'm able to do a lot of what I'm doing now. And even when I think of being that little girl 6 years ago when I quit my manufacturing job, boy, you're going to make me tear up a little bit here. When I quit my job as being a senior leader, working myself up to being an executive vice president, CFO, to say I'm going to do something different, starting being that coach, speaker, trainer, and TEDx, and now an author, it just is like, wow, we can do it if we really put our minds to it and be committed to it moving forward. So, oh, thank you for that question.
Yeah. Well, it is amazing. It is amazing looking back and thinking about how you are as a kid, and then because it's part of what brought you to today, right?
Yeah,
And so, so that shy little girl that broke out of her shell that now is speaking in front of thousands of people and whatever, like, did you ever imagine as a kid that this is where you'd be today, or even dream about where you'd be today?
never. My path to getting to here was just like everybody. Everybody has a story and a path that is, it's kind of a little wonky, but I didn't I graduated from high school when I was 16 and I did not go to college right away. It's because, again, my parents were thinking, well, you need to go out and work, that old kind of mentality until I was very involved in horses and training and teaching that I needed to go back to school. And I went back to school. So I didn't have a straight trajectory and stuff like that. It was always a life of discovery, and as I look back, I can see now how all the dots were connected to get me to being where I'm at right now. And had I not had those different experiences, um, this would not be my creation right now. I would be something else.
It's so interesting, right? Like I think
Yeah.
about those dot to dot books. I loved those when I was a kid, start at one and you don't know what the picture is going to look like until you connect them all together.
Yeah. Yeah.
And right?
I love that. I never
Yeah.
thought of that. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And then on the other side of it, once you connect them all, you go, wow, I guess I had to go through that to get through this too, or not necessarily had to go through it, but this is what I learned when I went through it.
Yeah.
And I took this away from it and whatever, because you have been hit hard in life.
Yeah.
You've gone through a lot.
Yeah.
Want to tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about your journey?
Absolutely. So, one of the things is, yeah, I didn't have that start to my career. I was the oldest one in this household, and it's like my brother and my sister behind me. They were able to just go right to college and everything else, but I was the firstborn, and getting out, and working full time, going to school part time to get my undergrad degree. I met my husband, and he was 15 years older than I, and I thought, okay, this is great. We're starting a life, and 6.5 years into our marriage, he died, and he committed suicide. So it left me as a 30-year-old, um, being saying, my rug had just been pulled out from underneath me. How am I going to be? How am I going to survive? Um, and a lot of shame, blame, and all that stuff
Right.
comes up. And
You know, it,
so it's
it's
like,
sorry to cut you off, but
yeah,
this is deep, right? Like this
yeah,
is a defining moment, huge defining
yeah,
moment in your life. And I lost my mom that way.
yeah. Oh,
And I can't, uh, it is the hardest way to leave people,
yeah.
right? That's what I feel like. And I remember that shame, that blame, that
Mhm.
what could I have done? What could I have said, right? Like what how is that playing in your mind? Or even one thing I remember that was so crystal clear was, what do we tell people? What do we
Yeah,
tell people? And
yeah,
my brothers were like, don't tell anybody, just say it was an accident or say something. And it's like, well, okay, but the truth is we have to deal with this, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
anyway, so uh, tell me how all of that was for you.
It was, yes, it was a stigma. When I had stepchildren, and I know that there was blame, for it was my fault. But one of the things I knew that got me through this was there was never anything that I regretted saying or something I didn't say to
Mm.
him. Um, so he did go to his grave that way, but I knew he always called me his bride, the love of his life. And what else? It was another, there was a third thing that he always, and I always felt that. So no matter what what had happened, I know that I had done everything I could do, and I had no regrets, none at all. But to bury him, when I was in my 30s, it was difficult. And then I never ever thought I could look at another person, another man, to do that. To that was a whole nother scope. So not only am I now calling myself a widow,
Yeah. Yeah.
it was like, wow, you now have a stigma of a widow. Um, and wow, that, you think about, first of all, that's older people, and you think about, oh, what happened? Oh, that poor soul. Yeah, it was difficult. It was hard. But I also tapped into a lot of people that were around me to really be able to support me through this process. And if it were not for them, I don't know where I would be. But it was also a pivotal point in my journey of really saying, what else can I do? When I started training for marathons, I started doing other things, taking a look at really branching out onto what I had built. When Bob had been alive, I quit work for the first time. I had been supporting the roof over my head when I was 8, since I had been 18. And he said, I wanted to go back and get my MBA. And he said, if you're going to do that, you're going to quit your job. And so I did, but that was difficult. And now I'm doing this thing and I'm trying to be aware of who I am and what I can do. And from there, I started thinking about, I got thinking I could do a little bit more now traveling in my work. I moved to Michigan from Syracuse, Michigan, to work for an automotive corporate. Then they shipped me over to Germany. And I would not have been able to do that had Bob been alive. So it was a pivotal point in change for me. It was a pivotal point in looking at different opportunities and possibilities, because after, everybody comes to me, oh, I want to fix you up with this one, oh, I want, meet that, and I go like, I just was not ready. But when I was ready, I remember feeling so vivid, like I had to go through that death all over again, all over, because I never thought I could look at another man,
Mm.
um, because I was so in love with him. And I felt I was cheating on him when
Isn't
I
that
could.
strange?
Yeah,
Yes. Oh my gosh. I know exactly. My husband died when I was in my 40s
right.
and
Yeah.
30s. Oh my word. I hated the word widow. I mean, I just
Yes.
everything you're saying, I'm like, I felt like that. But yeah, and then my husband had cancer. So that's a little bit different than
Yep.
what you had to deal with more even
Yep.
than I had to deal with. But I loved him. I adored him. And I felt like I was cheating. And still, it's been years. It's been a long time since my husband passed away. And I still have moments that, like, if I'm going to stop
Mm,
at the grocery store, I'm like, oh, I need to call him to see if he wants anything in particular,
yeah.
or still kind of have those moments. And I'm like, holy cow, Kim, it's been so long.
Yeah.
And sort of the guilt. I don't know if you felt like this, but sort of like this, I want to be happy. I want to live a great life, honoring my husband, because he honored me. He was a great guy. And, but felt kind of judged
Mhm.
for being happy, for doing what I do, or doing
Yeah.
things that I did at the time or
Yeah.
whatever. Like,
Yeah.
how can you not just miss him? How do you get to laugh? And do you ever feel
Yeah. Okay.
judged in your journey?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think, um uh as I started dating, again, that there was guilt there. It was like judgment. Like, who is this person for my stepkids? Who is this guy? And, what are you doing here? Or because, that was our family. He had been, obviously he had been divorced, and so we had created like a family with these kids. And, time has moved on, but I did feel like I wanted to keep that unit together because that kept that memory alive. You know, and you know that the milestones of each one of the different holidays and anniversaries, and I still go to his anniversary, and it is still a monumental day for me because you can't lose that. It is just part of you and part of a pivotal point in your journey and a milestone in your journey that you've moved on. You know, um, as you have this talked about your husband dying of cancer, you know, I lost mine in the twinkling of an eye, and I've had the conversations with widows or widowers who have lost their spouse to a cancer, where they had a chance to say goodbye. They
Mhm.
had a chance to kind of really talk about those monumental things in their life. Um, and it's like who's got it better or who's not, you know,
Right.
and
Right.
it's like nobody has it better, everybody's journey. But it's like, you know, I wonder if I could have had a few more moments
Mm.
with him to be able to just say, hey, this was a really good journey. It's about what life is about, being in that present moment with the
Mm.
people that we're with. And you had that present moment of being there with him through that journey, and witnessing and being there. And it's those are precious moments that we that will always live with us.
Yeah, I've often wondered, is that, in my mind, for the person who passes away in an instant, probably is easier than a illness, a terminal illness, whatever. But for the people left behind, it's easier if you have some warning. And
Yeah,
so I think about that a lot. Like, uh, we're not going to get warning for everybody that we
no,
love. And so every moment is precious. Like, it puts life into a whole different perspective, right?
yeah, yeah. I want to talk to you about warnings because I
Yeah.
was just talking to somebody about this morning, a client actually, about how truly God sends you signals and warnings about what you need to watch out for. So I published this book. It came out in Kindle version in March, and then printed version in April, and we had a book launch and big things, and now, you know, trying to market it, getting it out. So my mind is going 100 miles an hour on top of still having a business as a coach and a trainer and so forth. So I had to go to a women's event on Monday night, and I'm thinking about everything I need to do to get home. And when I get home, things I need to do. And I really wasn't paying attention. And I was speeding. And I was speeding in a 45-mile an hour road. And the cop clocked me in at 62. And I knew, I go, okay, I'm nailed now. So going through everything, I gave him my license. I said, oh, I just got my registration. It's not due till June, but you can see it's there. I said, oh, I got my insurance card. It's sitting in the envelope at home. You know, I have an older one. If you want that, I can give that to you. He says, no, this is all I need. He comes back and he hands me my license and he says, thank you. And he says, just please be aware of what you're doing. I didn't get a ticket. I
Mm.
asked him, am I going to get this in the mail? It was, and I just get chills thinking about it. It was a warning for me that sometimes we need to slow down
Mm.
and we need to heed to those warnings because they're going to come in so many different ways. And so we don't get that moment always to say goodbye. So we need to be in this present moment so that we can make the most of it. And it was a reminder for me. And I'm going like, oh, wow. It's like you were saying, I just need to breathe. Yeah, the breath. Um, and I could feel myself starting to breathe like it's okay. All of this is going to get done. It's in its right timing. And so yeah, there are those signs, Kim, the
Yeah.
signs.
Yeah. That sometimes we pay attention to, some people pay attention to, some people don't as much, but anybody can. Like I think part of it is being open and observant to see the signs, see the
Yeah,
warnings, right?
yeah,
Like that intuition,
yeah.
that feeling in your gut, like, oh
Yes,
God, what is this feeling? You know, what, and pay attention to it and figure out, well, what is it? What is it that God is trying to tell you? And be open to listen and hear. And yeah, that as a friend of mine says, you don't have to be blindsided, which is
yeah,
interesting, right? But yeah, no, you're so right on. I think that's so absolutely true. And I love what you're talking about because that's so easy to do. It's
yeah,
so easy to sit wherever you are and you're there to listen to whoever you're there to listen to, or you're sitting with a friend, or you're sitting with a family member, or you're sitting with the grocery store clerk, right? And your mind be on everything but what's going on right in front of you in this moment. And the moment is going to come and go with or without you. And
yeah.
when you're thinking about the things you have to do, you can't do anything about it right then anyway.
Right.
So I believe that love is patient, and love that is patient is that recognizing this moment is the most important moment of your life. Like the past is in the past and the future is yet to come. This is the most important moment. So be fully present with who you're with because you love them. We just love
Yeah,
everybody. And yeah, like what a different experience you would have had. Who knows? You know, I don't know what they were talking about on Monday night, but you know, if you instead were present in the moment, I think about how many moments I've lost over the years and let myself be distracted. It's an easy thing to do and something I've practiced a lot because it did not come natural to me to just be in the moment. So
yeah,
yeah, yeah. So those reminders, right? Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
It, and I think like one of the things, Bob's death was a pivotal point where it was a reminder. And then years later, I got diagnosed with kidney cancer, and luckily, it wasn't kidney cancer, but it was a tumor that was very, very large, and they don't do biopsies on kidney cancer, and so they removed my kidney. Um, and then, and during that, and we talked, I have alopecia, I lost my hair. So everything is so pivotal in the moments in our life. And if we can take a look at them and learn from them, um, by being present in the moment you're in, you know, um, you're going to learn so much. Otherwise, you're going to miss so much. And
Mm.
life is, I mean, I'm thinking, I was talking to some clients this morning, it's April 30th. Oh my gosh, and where is this year going? A
Mhm.
third of the year is done, and it's like life is flying by, and we need to be able to really be present here and now.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh, it's so true and so good to talk about because it's a good reminder for everybody. I think that you just, yeah, don't let the moments go by. You know, I think about like when my kids were little,
Yeah,
how many moments I lost because I was
yeah,
on the phone or I was busy stirring the beans, you know, and think, man, I my son Luke used to poke me in the arm and he poke. I had a bruise on my arm for years. I felt like, mom. And I look back and I think, gosh, if I would have just stopped stirring the beans
mm,
and said, you know, Luke, what do you want? He probably would have said, this truck is red and moved on. You know, like it doesn't mean you're going to have an hour-long conversation, but you give them the time, give
yeah,
people the time. Like the best time you have should be shared with people, and yeah, don't let those moments slip away.
Yeah. Yeah. They're precious.
For sure. So yeah, so going through what you've gone through and being resilient, being aware of how important it is, how important the moments are, how important every day, people talk about that, you hear, well, every day is a gift. Well, you know what? Every day is a gift.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, we don't always see it um, that way. And I think that if one of the things that I like to talk about is that life can happen to you. It's the way you're seeing. You can see that you could be a victim. Um, you became a widow because your husband had cancer. I became a victim because my husband committed suicide. I could have become a victim because of my, kidney cancer, that life was happening to me. And so that I'm a victim of it. But there's also a way to look at those moments, those present moments, and saying, life is happening for me because we can learn from them. You learned, you created from your husband's death. Yes, it took the rug out from underneath you, but you've learned and you've moved on. I myself ended up deciding that it was going to be an opportunity for me to make some changes. What did I need to do? I could have just remained in that widow mode, but I was also too young to do that. You were too young to do that. You needed to move forward. And so it becomes like life happens for me so that I can take a look at what other opportunities and what other possibilities are out there for me to do, to explore. And then the other way I think of looking at the present moment in life is that it happens through you. Just think about like what you went through, the creation of your book and everything that you're doing, the podcast, your TV show, to being able to share the message of life, of love, and getting that out there because people need it. For me, I went through all of this stuff. I decided I was going to quit my job as a senior leader in manufacturing and be able to do something that was going to be more impactful and creative, and that I can share this wisdom through me and my book. And it's that's exactly what you've done, to be able to share the wisdom of life and love through your book and through your podcast. So you can look at life happening to you, for you, or through you. And it is a choice. And it is a choice of your perspective, and it's a choice of how do you want to show up. And because life is too short.
Gosh, that's so true. That's so true. That's so good. That's so rich. I've never heard it put exactly that way. But yeah, let life happen through you. Like, um, you can go through stuff and it can just be in vain, right? Like you went through it, it was the hardest time, and but you made it through. That's great. You showed resilience, you made it through. But if you never do anything with that, like if you don't
Mhm.
allow yourself to grow or allow yourself to be used, like um, for me, it was always great to talk to another widow. I hated that word,
Mm.
but talk to somebody else who's going through it. And I'm farther along, right? Farther down the road, or someone who's lost somebody through suicide. I've met with lots of people over the years because I can relate in a different
Yeah.
way than someone who's never been through it before. So it doesn't mean you have to start a TV show or a podcast. You don't have to write a book,
No.
but there are ways that you can use what you've been through, what you've endured to help other people. And Yeah, I love the way you said that.
Absolutely. I mean, there is, again, it's like looking at this from a different perspective, and it's like, it's the podcast, TV show, book, coaching, whatever, speaking. That's one of the lanes that you can put the through me. But you know what? What is so needed is even that human touch or that human being conversation one on one. That's where you can make difference in people's lives. It doesn't have to be anything grandeur. It can be just something really small because that's I truly believe that that's why we are put here on earth is to make a difference in people's lives. And it can start at one step at a time and one person at a time. One person recognizing that as people are going through different things, there's a human on the other side. And what you see may not necessarily be what's happening. And it's like being able to help, being curious, being able to listen and have that conversation to say, hey, what's really going on? But really kind of leaning into the process about it. It doesn't have to be big. It really doesn't. And yeah,
Right. I mean, it's person to person. I mean, that it doesn't have to be big. You don't have to be speaking in front of large crowds or it just who are you with? And you know how we do. Like I say, we like collectively the world. Like I'm pretending I know everybody,
yeah,
um, but it's so common to say, "How are you?" And then you just say, "Fine," whatever. And but to really want to know
yeah,
to ask sincerely, maybe ask it a different way. Like, what's the best part of your day or what's
yeah,
going on for you right now, or what's happening instead of just the how are you? I'm fine. But
yeah,
to let people be a shoulder for somebody, be a sounding board or, which is being a friend,
yeah,
right? I
yeah,
mean, it's human to human. Yeah.
yeah. As you're talking about this, I remember when I studied positive psychology and what positive psychology is. It's all really about building muscle on what's working. And I studied with some great people, Maria Serwan, Tal Ben Shahar, and I remember having 30-day challenges, like 30 days, because you're really kind of thinking about what can you do to build um, new pathways, new muscles. And as you're talking about being able to ask how you really are, one of my challenges, and I went over as I try to create one new habit, and I worked on another one, was being able to say hello to a stranger and also be able to compliment people on what they're doing or saying thank you. So I my one of my 30-day challenges was to be able to say thank you to somebody for doing what they were doing. And if you think about I remember going into like things like Panera or um, gas station or something like that, and just saying thank you and thank you for doing what you do. And I'll never forget the expressions on people because what it was is just building on what you're talking about is that connection and really taking the time because people want to be recognized and seen for who they are. These people were like, wow, and you know what? It might have just been a glimmer in their day, but I wanted to make them feel that they were important because they were and they are important in these simple tasks that we think we take for granted, but they're really not. being in that now as you were talking and being in the moment, um, it's what they're doing to make that presence, that awareness, that environment really good to you. And people need to be thanked for those small moments because they're really not small, they're big moments in what they're doing.
Yeah, yeah. It's probably something a lot of people never hear in any position. So yeah, we should, I challenge everybody for the next
Yeah.
30 days, say thank you for doing what you're doing. Like let people know and be earnest. Like don't just do it, but build that muscle that you
Yeah.
recognize how important we all are. It takes all of us working together to be in this world that we're in. And so yeah, say thank you. 30 days. Mark
Yeah.
it on your calendar and start and just do it. I think that's a great idea. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So you talk about looking good and doing it right
Yeah.
is killing us.
Yeah.
So what do you mean by that?
So, um, one of the things that I had been in manufacturing for 25 years. After I finished my MBA, I got into manufacturing. And one of the things about manufacturing is that it is a man's world. Um, and here I had my undergrad was in accounting, and I had gotten into for the MBA, I got into operations because it was bringing everything together and I loved it. And so one of the opportunities was to get into manufacturing. Um, but the problem there is that I had an accounting degree and a minor in finance, and I wasn't an engineer. I wasn't a quality guru. I wasn't transportation. I was just going in, taking a look at the full operation and really seeing how I could help everybody. And I'll never forget the first time I walked into my first manufacturing job. The president of the company had hired me, and the vice president ended up saying to me, "Who are you that you're going to see something that I haven't seen in 25 years?"
Mm,
That set the tone for me. And within a week later, his right hand person came up to me and says, "I just want to let you know, I'm going to be watching your back, your every move to make sure you're not getting out of line." And I'm going like, whoa, these are
goodness.
pretty heavy words. But it set the tone for me that I had to look good. I had to get it right. I had to work harder to be able to be recognized. And um, that really just drained me. And it was, I would always like be second guessing everything I was doing. And I remember Bob was still alive and he's going, "Well, have you, chewed off more than you can handle?" And I'm going, "No, because I'm going to do it." And I did do it, but at what cost? The cost was losing focus on what I was really doing, loss of focus of really making an impact. I needed to do it. I became a machine and driving forward. But as I stated earlier, I had gotten alopecia in my 20s. And so it was now, and I will do something here, but I couldn't do this up until about 6 years ago. I went through my life, you know, thinking that I had to hide. And as I was doing this, it was just killing my soul because I could not bring forth my authentic self, my authentic voice. I still felt like that 8 year old. That was such a beautiful question. That 8 year old little girl that had to hide was shy. And and so I started working with a coach. And it still even is a little shocking for me, but the wig became a representation of how I was living my life, that I always had to look good, get it right, but at what cost? The cost of I lost my hair because I needed to be able to do things right in my personal life. In my work life, yes, I moved up ladders and I worked hard because, again, that's what I thought we were supposed to do. And, but at what cost to me, my family, my my spouse, and now Frank? I mean, it's like, what cost that took me away from being able to be present. And it was also a way of hiding me and not really being who I needed to be in the moment.
Mm,
So, yeah, looking good and getting it right is killing our souls. It is. What would it be like to even think about? This is dramatic, but what would it be like to be able to be 2, 3, 4% more authentic and present in the moment, that you would be living into your true self, into who you need to be, because that person that you need to be is needed in the world,
mm.
and they need, and you need to be able to show up in your authentic self and with that voice from there.
Wow. Wow. Uh, yes, you are brave. And yes, you are beautiful. I mean, wig or
Praise
no
God.
wig.
Yeah.
So I can see what you're saying is so rich because it's true. Like so much of what we do is to please other people, right?
Yep.
So like you
Yep.
and your job, it's like, well, what can I do to make my boss happy? Like, how do I keep this job? You know, what do I do so he's not seeing that I'm messing up somewhere? And that kind of pressure, that's tough pressure because of course you want to please your boss. You know, of course you want to do your job right. But when it's stated to you in such a way that it's like your neck is on the line, right? Like that's some pressure for sure.
Yeah.
And especially in manufacturing, because it is a man's world. And so here you are. I mean, and I can see where you lose yourself. And it's so easy to get lost and figure out that we're not who people have been telling us we are, right?
Yeah.
Like
That
our
we need to
whole
be
life.
somebody else.
Yeah, that we need to be somebody else to be worthy of whatever, or to be accepted for whatever, or to be whatever it is, but that we need to be something other than who we truly are. And we're told, you know, from a young age, we're told what we are. And to get to the point you got to, holy cow, where you just went, okay, this isn't me. Like I'm not allowing myself to be fully, completely who I am. That had to be such a huge
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah. And it's after 25 years, Kim, and because my 3, 4 years before I decided to quit my job, I was looking for me. I was looking for me. I was looking for, I studied resiliency, the positive psychology, got involved in John Maxwell. That's where I dabbled in the coaching. And I'm trying to figure out who is me and what is this thing that I need to do. And even when I quit my job at the end of 2018, and I needed to get clients, and I was sending out, like, I call it my coming out letter, because I wanted people to know what I was doing. They would come back and they would go like, what is wrong with you? How
Mm,
come you're leaving your job? But you're no, and I never had to go and look for a job. People came after me because I became known in my work. But they're going like, why are you doing this? And I'm saying it's because I'm fulfilling a calling. There's something more that I need to do. And at the time, I didn't know what it was. I was struggling because I still have the imposter syndrome of still trying to look good and getting it right. How can how can I call myself a coach, speaker, trainer? Because after under the John Maxwell thing, it was that's what you do. You call yourself a coach, speaker, trainer, but it was so far from the truth. And I had to walk into that and figure out what it is. And it's a struggle. It's a big struggle, but I would not have had it any other way in doing what I'm doing now.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. So I can see why you would get to that moment because you recognize that, man, this isn't me. I am not living completely me and authentically and honestly and truly who I am, who I'm created to be. But then how do you figure out who you are?
Whew. You know, one of the things I work with a lot of women that are trying to put businesses in the world and they're trying to find their voice. And a lot of times they're looking for the magic pill. And I end up going, there isn't a magic pill, but there are steps that you can take. And knowing that each step will compound on the previous step, but each step that you take may be wonky. It may be on squishy ground, and you may end up saying, this isn't what I need to be doing. So start pivoting. So for me, excuse me, I just had to start stepping into a little bit of the vision of what I wanted to create. And I knew I wanted to be a coach, speaker, trainer. I put it out there. I knew that 4 years ago, 3 years ago, I had heard somebody talk about putting a TEDx talk together. I had written it, but I could not deliver it yet. I wasn't brave enough. And then in 2024, I did it. Same thing with the book. The woman who was my editor working with me, she was a client of mine in a company I worked with. I ended up saying to her, I think I've got a book in me. And she goes, when you're ready, I want to help you along that path. And so I think that moving forward, overcoming that imposter syndrome, overcoming where I had been, is really thinking about dreaming a little bit. What is it that I want to create? And sometimes it's wonky. What is my next thing? I don't know. It's going to build on it. You're just going to keep moving forward. Because somebody said to me, are you ever going to retire? And I go, probably not, because there's so many things I would love to do and try to do to be able to help impact people's lives. And so I think the antidote is really about just dreaming a little bit and taking a step and knowing that you're not always going to have a perfect path, being able to discover who and what you need to be doing in your life. But if you don't start moving, it's not going to happen. So you need to continuously move forward.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So well put. So well said. I think I believe that your purpose, anyone's purpose, is to be completely, totally who they were created to be.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
because if you can be who you're created to be fully, not what people are telling you, not what people are saying you're not, or what people are saying you are, it doesn't matter. But not that, but who you deep down know who you are, who you deep
Yeah.
down know your authentic self. And to live that's your purpose.
Yeah.
That's your purpose. Live in your purpose by knowing who you are, right? I
Yeah.
mean, that's what you're saying, which is so smart. I mean, that's so true. It's so simple yet so difficult.
It, I want to throw something else out there because, as we are on this journey of where we need to go and need to be, we have conversations. And and I truly, one of the things I'm always saying is clarity comes in the conversation. And I think that there are three places that we have conversations. One is with ourself in our head. I can, I can't. Oh, I can sabotage what I'm doing, or I can think I can do it and start moving there. But that's your brain. Then the other place is when you start having conversations with other people that are going to help you get some clarity. And yes, some people may poo-poo some of your ideas, but you are still going to take this brain, the conversation you're having there, and the conversation you're having with other people to at heart to really kind of help you get that right direction.
Mhm.
But I think the third, and I don't think we always reflect on this one enough, and it's the conversation with God, your higher power, your universe, whatever you want to call it, um, is the guidance, asking for that divine guidance to be able to move forward. So that as you are putting these three conversations together, you can bring more clarity as to what you need to do and where you need to go because you're bringing along people, God, yourself on this journey.
Oh, man, that's so good. Yeah, the three conversations. And they're two-way conversations,
Yes,
right?
yes,
So even
yeah.
with yourself, you're talking to yourself and figuring it out, right? And then with others, it's obviously two-way, but with God, uh
Mm,
two-way. And we can be so good. People can be so good. I can be so good at just a one-way conversation. Lord Jesus, I pray for this, I pray for that, help this person, help that person, whatever, whatever. And then walk away before I give a chance for a reply. And so opening up to a two-way conversation and sitting in that and then listening and what is it that you're getting? What kind of downloads are coming your way?
yeah.
It changes everything.
I love the two-way conversation. Yes, because it has to happen from there.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's so good. That's great advice on figuring out who you are. And then I think it's good too, probably to do check-ins. Am I living who I am? Am I, with the right people? Do I have a circle of friends that are uplifting, make me a better person? Is there something holding me back that I shouldn't be spending my time with, whatever it is.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's that little tweaking. You
Hmm.
know, it's like the little tweaking I got from the gentleman who I was speeding, the cop. That was a tweak.
Yeah.
But it was somehow, it was a message to me. It was a message back to me that I needed to be able to be aware of what was going on and aware of that moment.
Hmm. So how did all of this affect your dating life?
Oh, oh. So, one of the things that uh, in the Bible, your hair, the women's hair is adorned by that. And so I, had been dating a guy when I had gone through this for a long time, and it just became kind of common knowledge and so forth. But when I really got into the serious conversations or my seriousness in my dating. And when I knew that I wanted to marry my husband. And when we were first dating, I had to sit him down and tell him that I had alopecia. And to my surprise, he said, I know, because he had been close friends with my boss at the time. And Franny had told Bob, and And I was like blown away. I mean, I was like ever so grateful that Franny had planted the seed and made it easier for me. And knowing that Bob had still gone into the relationship, um, knowing who I was.
Mm.
Um, and then later on, after Bob passed, and there were a couple of guys I had dated, but then I met Frank, and um, and I remember the anticipation now again because I was going, this relationship has merit here, and I really like it. I'm going like, oh, I've got to break that piece of news. What is this going to be like? And I remember we were out for dinner, and I said to him, I said, I have something to tell you. And it's okay. What is it? And I told him, again, I'm balling up and I'm just like getting ready for, okay, whatever. And he says, okay, so I feel fortunate that the two main loves of my life, it was just a matter of fact. So, okay, it doesn't define you. I don't see it. But one of the things, in my married lives, I would not, um, when I went into the bathroom, took a shower, they were not permitted in there.
Mm.
And it wasn't until 6 years ago when I really made the decision that I was going to reveal, did Frank ever see me without a wig? And the only ones that ever did were, people were doctors, or if I was going into an operating room, I said, I'd like you to please, if you got to take my wig off, please put a cap on my head. And I'll tell you this, you're talking about dating, but I did triathlons,
Mm.
and you start out with swimming. So you can start out with a cap, you've got a wetsuit on, um, but your time during the um, during the race, your transition time is counted towards the whole race. And I said to my trainer, I said, I wear a wig. How am I going to get this thing off and or get the cap off, get my wig on, and put my helmet on to do bike? And she's like, I don't know. So what I did was I put a towel over my head, bent down, and I took the cap off and put my wig on, and then put my helmet on. But it was again represented how much time I wasted
Mm.
because of this. It was non-value added. I couldn't be myself. I had to hide behind it, and it cost me. It cost me time. So it's like the learning here and looking good and getting it right is killing our souls, but it's costing us a piece of authenticity. It's costing us time. It's costing us relationships because we can't be who we need to be. We always are looking to be somebody different, somebody better than who we are. And that's time. And it's more important to me now to be who I need to be around the people who can accept me, be around the people who see me for who I am. That's now what is really important to me.
Wow. Wow. That's such a big message.
Yeah.
And it's such a great analogy, even though you were living it with the triathlons. What a great analogy that we put on these masks. How long does it take us to put on this face, this different mask, so that we are somebody that's more accepted or more loved, we feel like, which we should never have to do. Just be yourself.
Yeah.
Like when you
Yeah.
told Frank, hey, I have this, I would hope that anybody would say so,
Yeah.
because it shouldn't define you. It doesn't define you. It's part of life for you, but it sure doesn't define you or, take away from the person you are. And so it's I I'm good for Frank, like
Yeah.
he said the
Yeah.
right thing. Like that's
Yeah.
the way it should be. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting to think about, well, what kind of a mask do I put on?
Yeah.
What am I doing? What am I hiding behind? Where do I need to be more authentic? Where do I need to be more real? How do I need to be spending my time? Because there's such great things for everyone to think about, for me to think about. And I love that you brought it here today.
Yeah. Well, thank
Yeah.
you, Kim. Thanks
Yeah.
for holding the space for me to do it.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. This has been great. And how can people reach out to you?
So one of the things that I would love for people to do is if you go to my website, barbstone.me, sign up for my newsletter, find out what's going on, find out where I'm showing up, and things like this podcast. I'm ever so grateful. So that is on my list of where I'm at, and as you can follow me on LinkedIn under Barb Stone. Facebook, Barb Stone, Instagram, Barb Stone, Barb underscore Stone underscore CNY, because there's a bunch of Barb Stones out there. Um, but I love to hear from people and being able to help people along the path. Kim, one of the things that happened along the way here is, you're putting out this new thing and you really want to put yourself forward. And I'm
Mhm.
going to tell you something. Mm, it's not about me anymore. I really want to be able to get um, the message out about my book, the message about lessons for living large. Um, because it's called so much to drool about lessons for living large, because life is to be drooled over. And
Mhm.
yes, it's through the eyes of my Great Danes, and some Great Danes do drool, but life is to be savored. And that's what drool is. It's like anticipating that moment. So please find me on my website, barbstone.me, and love to stay in touch and just have a conversation. Reach out.
That's so good. And yeah, reach out and buy the book. It's so good. It's so good. And it's on Amazon. You can go there now, right after you watch this. You can click and buy it a couple different ways and buy more than one.
Yeah.
It's a great, amazing thing to give to somebody else because the message is so beautiful and so good and something people need to hear. So thank you, Barb, for joining us. Thank you for everything, this great conversation. And thank you for joining us. And I just want to say that until we see each other again, keep your heart open and live love loud.